Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Chicago PD's current Voight arc has put an end to this fan-favorite ship. Hank Voight, Jason Begg, has always been a lone wolf. It's been hardwired into his character from day one, decades before we met him on Chicago Fire. Arguably the most fascinating element of the current Chicago PD season, however, is the way that Voight is trying to undo his lone wolf tendencies. The veteran U-boss has seen his fair share of tragedy and betrayal, but his dynamic with Ada and Nina Chapman, Sarah Buse, has allowed him to let his guard down and give his trust over to someone else. They have teamed up to take down Deputy Chief Charlie Reed, Sean Hatosy, the big bad of Season 12, all the while fueling the legitimate romantic option Voight has had since a certain Law and Order superstar. We all remember when Chicago PD and Law and Order SVU crossed over in 2015. The two units joined forces to solve a case involving a serial killer named Gregory Yates, Dallas Roberts. Voight teamed up with SVU's Olivia Benson, Mariska Hargitay, and right off the bat, fans were quick to ship them as a procedural power couple. It's easy to see why. Both Voight and Benson have suffered loss, and have largely based their lives around being good at their jobs. They do what's necessary to enact justice, even if Voight's methods have, historically, been more questionable. The fan desire to see Voight and Benson get together was so strong that it made its way to the actors. Jason Begg told The Hollywood Reporter that there is an undeniable connection between Voight and Benson. There was a lot of warmth, maybe even could be construed as flirtation, he conceded. Ultimately, however, the job took precedence, and two remained peers in strictly a professional sense. "We don't have a lot of time for the lighter enjoyment of things," the actor noted. "It's a distressing and personally wrenching experience, particularly for the characters in Chicago. It's been a long time since Voight and Benson crossed paths on the small screen, but there was an underlying hope on the part of procedural TV fans that we would get to see them together again. It was nice to see the IU boss meet his match and dish out some flirty banter. Now, however, the role Benson briefly occupied has been filled, seemingly on a deeper level, by Ada Chapman. We don't know if Voight and Chapman are going to pursue anything personal. We know the latter has romantic feelings for Voight, and we know is seeking a change in his life. We can retire the Voight and Benson ship, and fully embrace the Voight and Chapman-Voightman ship. Jessa Lee Soffer's exit still stings for a large contingency of Chicago PD fans. The actor's decision to step away from the procedural drama led to a series of writing decisions that rubbed a lot of viewers the wrong way. Soffer's character, Jay Halstead, quit the IU and effectively abandoned his wife, Haley Upton, Tracy Spiridakos, whom he would eventually divorce. This did not really gel with the Halstead that we had gotten to know and love, and the fact that Upton left Chicago PD a season later meant we would never get the chance to see them reconcile or come to terms with their split. A reconciliation, however, may be in store for Soffer's new character on FBI International. Soffer plays Wes Mitchell on the FBI spin-off, and his relationship came to an end in the very first episode of Season 4. Mitchell and FBI agent Ella Driscoll, Jade Taylor, called it quits, and the bulk of the season has played out with little mention of the latter. Driscoll returned in the episode They May Get Their Wish, however, and will continue to play a role in the episode Little Angel. "You have no idea how good it feels to know that I can still count on you," Driscoll tells Mitchell during their Budapest rendezvous. "It's really good to see you." The impetus for the meeting was a case, but it's clear that there's still some romantic tension between the FBI agents. It's a connection some fans didn't expect to get, and it's precisely the sort of connection we wish occurred on Chicago PD. The One Chicago spin-off did a good job of rounding off Upton's character arc in Season 12, and giving her a sense of hope as she leaves the IU behind. The lack of resolution regarding Halstead, however, has hurt the legacies of both characters. They were set to go down as the most beloved couple in the show's history, but their conclusion was both anticlimactic and underbaked. The divorce clearly took an emotional toll on Upton, but we never got Halstead's perspective. From the perspective of the show, that historically attentive and heroic character had simply taken off and paid no mind to those he once loved. FBI International has had much less time with Soffer as an actor, but it looks like the show will be able to offer some romantic closure for his character, even if it doesn't lead to Mitchell and Driscoll getting back together. We appreciate it. In the gritty world of Chicago PD, where loyalty, justice, and betrayal often collide, Voight's recent actions have sent shockwaves through the fanbase, irrevocably ending a relationship that fans had hoped would flourish. The on-screen chemistry between Detective Hank Voight and his colleague, Detective Haley Upton, has been a fan favorite since their partnership first blossomed. The pairing seemed to have all the elements for a perfect storm: two intense, skilled detectives navigating the complex, dangerous world of law enforcement with a deeply personal connection that was both tender and occasionally fraught with tension. But now, with Voight's recent decisions and moral compromises, this ship has officially sunk, leaving fans to reflect on the love that never quite made it to the shore. The arc that led to this heartbreaking end began when Voight, ever the morally complex and unpredictable figure, crossed a line in his pursuit of justice. Voight had always lived in the gray areas of law enforcement, bending the rules when it suited him, and sometimes outright breaking them. But when the stakes became higher and the consequences more severe, his decisions became harder for those around him to ignore, especially Haley. She had always admired Voight's dedication, his willingness to do whatever it took to solve the case. But as the days passed, she started questioning the price of his actions, the line he was willing to cross, and whether she could still stand by him. It was during a high-pressure case, a case where the stakes were higher than ever, that Voight's decisions began to fracture their relationship. Haley, who had always prided herself on her moral compass, began to see Voight's methods as a betrayal of the very principles they both swore to uphold. Their partnership, once a bond built on mutual respect and understanding, began to unravel. Haley tried to talk to him, to get him to reconsider. But each time, Voight dismissed her concerns with a curt, almost angry response, shutting her out emotionally as he grew more distant and consumed by the case. The tipping point came when Voight made a choice that shattered Haley's trust entirely. In the heat of the moment, he made a decision that involved manipulating evidence, a move that in Haley's eyes crossed a line from moral flexibility to outright dishonesty. As the investigation wore on, it became clear that this choice wasn't just a one-off mistake. It was a sign of deeper cracks in Voight's character. Haley tried to reason with him, to remind him of the person he used to be, but Voight was unwavering, his conviction in his actions so solid that there was no room for compromise or understanding. It was during a quiet moment in the office, away from the chaos of the case, that Haley confronted him. "You're not the man I thought you were," she said, her voice laced with heartbreak. Her words were more than just an accusation, they were the culmination of months of growing unease. She had hoped for some sort of redemption, that Voight would recognize the error of his ways and acknowledge the toll his decisions had taken on their partnership. But in that moment it was clear that Voight was beyond that. The man she had once admired, the man she had once shared a deep connection with, was no longer the same. The trust they had built together, the foundation of their relationship, had been irrevocably damaged. Voight's response was colder than she expected, a sharp contrast to the warmth and understanding they had shared in the past. He didn't apologize, didn't try to justify his actions. Instead, he simply looked at her, his face stoic, and muttered, "I do what needs to be done. You wouldn't understand." It was that final, emotionless response that made Haley realize that their bond had truly come to an end. She had always understood the sacrifices of the job, had always been willing to stand by him even in the darkest of moments. But this was different. This wasn't a sacrifice for the greater good. This was a choice, one that left no room for trust or redemption.